right, we back at it. We live. What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another extraordinary episode of the Extraordinary Exchange Podcast. I'm your guy, Nate Bennett, with my co-host.
Your man's Trace, man. What's happening with y'all folks, man? And again, today, we doing another skirt. You feel me?
Spin the block.
Spin the block. You know what I'm saying? We got the good brother Just Money in the building. You know what I'm saying? We recorded with him earlier. We had a little mishap like we talked about in the previous episode, but we brought the brother back because the information that he's going to provide is tremendously valuable to the people, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to good brother, Just Money.
What up, though?
What's going on, fellas? Shout out to the E.I.G family. How y'all doing? The pleasure is mine. I was waiting. It's funny because I was seeing everybody else coming out. I'm like, yo, what's going on, fellas? We have to call the execs. What's going on? So I'm happy to be back here to bring this double back. At the end of the day, it's funny because when I did the first one, I was still kind of getting into the mentorship, and now I'm a few chapters ahead of it now, and just being a new teacher, just learning. I'm learning as well. That's why I love what I'm doing, because I'm growing and learning at the same time, helping people grow and learn. So it's a beautiful feeling. But yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. What's going on?
Yeah, no doubt. So, moment of transparency. I mean, you were episode 2 that we recorded, and so we were still fresh into the podcasting game. Trying to catch our stride. You know what I'm saying? But we a little more well versed too. So this should be a good episode. But yeah, and I know you were watching too, because I even sent you the artwork for the joint.
Yeah, right.
I was like, hey, yours is coming up, fam. Yours is coming up. And we just couldn't get that joint edited, man. On that previous, we ain't gonna say no names, but on that previous platform, man, it was all jacked up. So, but yeah, we were rocking with StreamYard. StreamYard's dope. Shout out to the folks at StreamYard. We ain't getting paid for that, but they've been showing us love. So. But yeah, let's get into it though. You said you've been doing some mentorship. First and foremost, shout out to you and your platform, Just Money Enterprises. Helping folks with their entrepreneur journey, with their credit journey, with their real estate journey. So yeah, tell the people about yourself, where you from, how you got into that game, and let's get this thing going.
Great. So pretty much my name is Justin. People like to call me Just Money. I'm from upstate New York, Albany, New York area, capital region, 2 hours out of New York City. And pretty much I am a real estate investor first, but I'm a guy that kind of gets into anything, for the most part. I do trade options from time to time. I wouldn't say it's my full time, but it's one of those things that I kind of want to make my full time. And, I hold cryptocurrency. And I'm, as far as on the real estate side, I'm wholesaling, I'm flipping. I have 5 rental properties now that I was able to acquire over the past 7 years. And this is 7 years with mistakes, right? So this is 7 years without understanding how to truly utilize other people's money and things of that nature, and using personal credit to fix up some properties, and doing things that they may not recommend. But I feel like me as a person and entrepreneur, I'm somebody that's got to learn the hard way, man. It sucks, but it is what it is sometimes. But I've been able to, so pretty much, if we go on my story, I came to Clubhouse, shout out to Clubhouse. That's how all of us met. Shout out to Clubhouse. We got to give Clubhouse a moment, give them their flowers. But pretty much I came to Clubhouse looking for some trading information, things of that nature. I was getting more involved in the trading, and, I've always kind of helped people, period. Like just anybody around me, anybody in my life, to my woman, to anybody, family, friends, like half the people that really, really cool with me, their Experian and Credit Karma is probably logged in on my laptop, right? Because I just understand, like, I messed my credit up early, and I understand how important it is, and I understand how valuable it is, but I also understand how they don't really teach the real game, right? And I'm not a person that really likes to say they. So when we talk about they, we're talking about I would say the powers that be, right? The people that determine how your day-to-day goes in the United States of America, right? They don't teach this game in school. You can't go to college for it. And you really got to learn from experience. So fast forward, when I was 18, I messed my credit up early, cars, car loans, repos, all of that, credit card. Like the credit card game, I didn't really get into it till a bit later, but cars and loans, I messed it up early. And, I was cool because, like I said, man, sometimes I could say I'm a risky entrepreneur. So I was throwing parties, man, I was in school, I was just running, you know what I mean? So once the credit got bad, I still had cash, so it really didn't bother me for some time, right? So I would say I'm 33 now. When I was about 24 to 25 years old, I went to one of those conferences that come to your city, and they teach you how to flip homes and stuff like that, and they really trying to sell you on a package. You know what I mean? They want you to spend 10,000 plus at the end, but I'm a kind of guy where I got to learn on my own. So there was no way I was spending 10 grand, but just the process I was able to learn about. Okay, wholesaling. What is wholesaling? What's hard money? All these type of things. So I go on my journey and bring it to 2020. When I get to Clubhouse, I'm starting to see how many of us really don't understand how powerful our credit is. So that was the first thing, right? That was the first thing that I started really understanding. And I come from a single mother. So I just have a thing when I run into these single moms, because I watched how hard my mom had to work, with 3 kids and things like that. So when I start running into these random people, I'm giving them information, get them information because there's nothing to me. And I want to see us win at the end of the day. So actually, shout out to Benz from E.I.G. He was one of the first people I kind of linked up with on Clubhouse, and just talking game. And he's older than me, so I always take to some people I respect their wisdom and things like that. And people start telling me, "Hey, man, you should start mentoring people." You know what I mean? Or so what I was doing is crazy, man. Because like looking back now, anybody listening, like I was doing one-on-ones for $200. Right? Just $200. I jump on Zoom with you for however long, no time limit, and just give you everything, give you the whole game, right? And pretty much one person, shout out to Melanie, she actually took that Zoom and executed, bought a property, upstate New York. She's from Brooklyn, right? So it was like very inspiring to watch her execute off an hour and a half conversation with me, first time speaking to her. So when I'm on Clubhouse and me and Benz wound up having a stock show, and the stock show got crazy, we having 1,000 listeners, 1,500, 2,000 listeners a morning. It still seems unreal to me when I look back at it, because it really was not planned at all. Like there was no prior planning. It just popped. And I realized Clubhouse was legendary for that time period in the world during the pandemic, and a lot of people was just out here trying to get in, trying to eat and things like that. So pretty much, I still wasn't taking the mentorship serious because I had a lot of personal issues going on, family. I'm still a new father and just dealing with that and stuff like that. So I'm helping the people, but I wasn't really taking it serious as I should have been, right? I'll say that for full transparency. But then, being able to meet some prominent individuals, and they really kind of started pushing it on me. And fast forward, that's how I kind of got here today. Currently I have 15 clients, and I have a coaching program where we teach you how to build up your personal credit profile. Like, I don't really like to talk credit score. I like to talk credit profile, because your credit profile is your mix of accounts that you have on your credit history, right? And that truly determines how much money a bank or institution will lend you, right? Your credit score determines the interest rate, right? It puts you in the, the higher your credit score, the better your interest rate will be. That's a simple way to think about it. But your credit profile determines if you're going to get 10 grand versus 50, right? So we help people build up their profile if it's not built already. We help you leverage that to get business credit, business funding. That's my main priority. Help you get the business funding. Now, when it comes to Just Money Enterprises, we have a lot of different services, but the business funding, that's my first goal, right? Is to help you get the money. Yeah. Now, realistically, I don't even really want to work with somebody that doesn't have a goal, because my job isn't to help you get 100, 200, 300K, and now you mess the money up. Granted, it's not hurting me, but I'm not in the game to do that, right? Like I want to help you. I want to help us. It's all about managing the money. Money is easy to get. It's easy to get the money, but managing is the harder part. So pretty much to help people manage it, I'm into real estate primarily. So that's what I do. You know, I help you get involved into, if you want to get into the upstate New York real estate market, or if you want to get into the market in your own backyard, everything that I'm teaching you, you will be able to run locally on your own. But up here, just to shine some light on up here, if we look at the current economic conditions, if we look at rent being at an all-time high, if we look at the housing shortage, I really don't think we truly understand the writing on the wall right now. Because if you look at the news, they tell you real estate's declining. Now, in some of these bigger cities, they might be taking price cuts, right? Some of these homes that might sit on the market a little bit longer, but they're taking price cuts from over exuberant numbers. That's what people have to understand. Mm-hmm. So if the house is worth 400 grand, but the guy wants 500, he might be sitting. But the house that's worth 400 grand and somebody offered, they still may offer 430 for it, right? Because we're in a shortage. That's why if you pay attention to your big cities right now, they are building multi-unit buildings, right? Really luxury buildings, right? So the lower income is going to have a hard time getting in some of those, right? But if you ask me, not even on a conspiracy type of thing, but I believe they want to box the average citizen in to an apartment or condo or something like that, and then the single family home space is going to explode, right? Because now you won't be able to afford it. Now every city is like San Francisco, right? Now, granted, this is just Money's opinion, and I do believe this might take some time. It's not it might take 30 years, right? But it's going to be a time. I think right now, don't quote me, but I think the median price in America right now is about 350, 360. I think that's going to turn into 700, 800, 600, around there. So that's kind of like my long-term picture. And again, that's where my passion comes in when it comes to real estate and helping our people, because I come from a single mother, and I realized that your net worth in America, real estate, the first thing they use is your primary home. That's the first cornerstone of it, right? And a lot of us in the Black community, we don't own, right? We're selling grandma's house. We're selling auntie's house. Now, granted, I know a lot of people run with that line, but I'm more like, if it makes sense to sell it and it's going to put the family in a better situation to clear up some debt, taxes, whatever it is, I'm not against you selling grandma's house. But in the same breath, I just want us to, like, selling grandma's house, I want that to be the last option. Because a lot of people don't understand, especially in the multifamily space. Like, when I first started buying, it was way easier to buy houses where I'm at. Now, it might be 300 houses on the market, but only 2 good multifamilies, right? So, or, I like to play with foreclosures. I go to the auctions, things like that. So it might be 30 single families, 2, 3 multis, like, so it's very scarce, and that's for a reason. That's how I feel. So I'm just putting it out there like that, because I want people to understand it's not really impossible to get involved with real estate. You don't need a lot of money. If you do have money, it does help you. You do want to have good credit. You don't have to have good credit. So there are plenty ways to get involved without having good credit. But when you do have credit, it just makes your journey a lot easier.
That's facts. So I heard you mention single families, multi-families. When it comes to the real estate, what type of properties are you typically looking at? Especially in your market. Like, I know you're upstate New York, so I know in a lot of upstate, from where we at, in a lot of upstate northern states, there's a lot of multifamily units. Is that what you're typically looking at?
Absolutely. So currently I own 4 now. Actually, I just sold one. I just sold a multifamily. So currently I own 4 2-family buildings, right? But I just had 5. And pretty much that's what I look for first, because of the cash flow, right? I'm a big fan of the BRRRR method. And the BRRRR method is buy, repair, rent, and refi. Once again, buy, repair. So you're buying the property, repairing the property, renting the property out, and then refi to pull your money back out and continue to keep running that play, right? So you buy another property after the refi. So typically that's what I'm looking for first, right? But being that people understand the benefits and incentives for having multifamily properties, the inventory is like a fight for it, right? So I had to kind of pivot and understand where, okay, I'm always trying to grab multifamilies, right? But when you grab a multifamily, for me, typically, I'm not looking to buy nothing that's rented out already, right? I'm not there yet, right? And it's why, because I like to force the appreciation and build the wealth myself, right? Now, granted, further in my career, when the cash flow is higher, then typically, all right, now you can go find something that's rented, value adds, right? A value add is something where you come into the building, there's a tenant in one unit already. It might be an empty unit. That tenant might have been in the unit for X amount of years. They're getting ready to move, something like that. So it's basically a time where you can come in, get the property, and it won't take as much as a full rehab like all of mine did. And now you're able to add value to the property, and you didn't have to do too much in the rehab side, right? So that's typically I'm looking for those, but I'm also flipping as well, because the way I teach it, when you understand how to control the money, there's a lot of different trades in the real estate transaction, right? You have a mortgage broker, you have a real estate agent, you have a contractor, right? Attorneys, right? So it's all about how you want to skin the cat. So all of those people get paid by who? The investor, right? Every trade we just named, they get paid by the investor. So my job and goal was to learn how to control the money. Let me find out how to get to the money, raise the funding. Then I figured out everything else later, right? So understanding how that goes, now it's like when you have the funding in place, things like that. Now, all right, well, I'm using hard money as well, right? So for hard money, for the people who don't know, hard money is just pretty much an unconventional mortgage, alternative funding, alternative financing, right? And you might pay typically a tad bit higher than you will at a regular bank like a Chase or a Bank of America, things like that. But hard money also will finance anything connected to dirt, right? Chase will not buy an investment property for you unless you're putting 20% down. And if you put 20% down, it has to be stabilized. They won't go buy a shell in Baltimore for you, right? You got to find out how to finance that yourself. Hard money will finance anything connected to dirt, pretty much. So to bring all of it together, when you have the funding and you have the eye, right? And that's what I show my people in Just Money Enterprises. You got to know formulas so you're not paying too much for these properties, right? So that's another part involved. It's in real estate, you make your money at the buying table. That is the truest statement anybody will tell you. You will hear it all the time because it's very true. Because if you get this property, let's say this property retail value is 200 grand and you got it for 80 grand, then you know most likely no matter what, you can't lose, right? And that's the one thing, like I'll put that on the record, where if you pay the correct price for real estate in America, you will never lose. Never lose, right? Majority of the time, people are taking losses by paying too much, whether you underestimated construction or you underestimated the ARV. So that means your comps come in, your comparable home sales, right? So some people do comps differently than others, right? So it's all of your due diligence in real estate is what you get paid for. But when you have the money and you have the financing, that was the title I took to learn to become the investor. Now I can flip a house because I'm not swinging any hammers, right? So I can do 2 projects at one time. So basically, to answer your question fully, Case, is like I'm with whatever opportunity makes sense. But primarily, I am looking for the BRRRR opportunities. But those opportunities, now you need your numbers to be a little tighter because you need to be able to buy it, fix it, pull your money back out. And most institutions will only give you 80% to anywhere from 70 to 80% of what the house is worth when you are done doing the repairs. So if that number at the end is not enough to be able to pay back your lenders, pay back your credit cards that you use, then that's not a good deal for you. That is, it might be a good deal for somebody that's coming in fixing it all cash, right? Because the cash is just sitting there, so you're better off spending it doing that. Because now, you know, as we all know, cash sitting in the bank, you're losing right now. So I hope that answered it. I know that was pretty extensive.
No, for sure. I was gonna say you gotta have your money
know,
working for
E.I.G. know what I'm saying? So gotta let it out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, let's kind of piggyback on what you just talked about with that Burr method. You talked about having a formula. I don't know if you can give your actual formula out on the platform or whatever, but when you talked about the mistakes people making with their numbers or overpaying for a property, like what are you looking for? You know, because we know roofs and foundations and stuff like that costs, you know, a lot more than when you underestimating that kind of stuff. So yeah, what are some of the things you're looking for in your Burr method properties?
So typically a Burr really works when you get the price at the bottom dollar, right? Because you're looking to have as much equity as possible when you're done, right? And if you're paying close to bottom dollar for properties, then you got to understand you're going to be getting into bigger renovation jobs, right? So typically, if I walk through a property, let's say we walk through a potential property up here, when I first started buying, I was buying things for 15, 25,000, 30,000. Now it's 80,000, 90s, 120s, 110s. The same properties that was going for 20K back then that needed maybe 80 grand in work, those are going for like 70,000 now. Right. So, and this is all in the past 5 years, maybe, fellas. Like, so this is not a long time. And the past 2 years, it's been crazy. So pretty much my purchase price is around there when I'm looking for these Burr methods, because typically I want to stay in the C-class neighborhoods, right? And C-class neighborhoods is pretty much, you know, working families, you know, not really hood, too much crime. You know, it might be a little crime once in a while, but nothing too major to scare people out of the areas, stuff like that. I don't really want to be in too much crime-ridden areas. I try to stay in B- to C+ neighborhoods, right? But the reason why I like those niches is because typically in those neighborhoods, the houses may not appreciate as fast as A-class neighborhood, suburbs, stuff like that, but the cash flow will be way higher majority of the time in a C+ neighborhood, C-class neighborhood than an A-class. So typically, if I know I'm going to rent this property out, like if I'm looking for the 2-family, then I'm looking in the C-class, B- areas first and foremost, right? Then when we get there, depending on the type of job that I'm ready to do, like depending on the level of renovations that I want to do, I'm looking to see how bad it is, right? I'm looking, like you said, I'm looking for the roof, right? I'm looking foundation. Foundation is probably a make or break for me. I don't want any I don't even want to deal with it. You know what I mean? I stay away from foundation problems because it could just be the start to a lot of other problems in a home, right? And typically you have to spend 15, 20, 10, you know, it's going to be something like that depending on what's wrong with it, right? So typically I stay away from bad foundations, but as far as everything else, roof, plumbing, electrical, right? Framing is a major thing up here because we're renovating properties that was built in 1920, 1910, 1930, you know, 1890. I got one I paid 15,000 for. That was built in 1890, right? So when you're coming into those type of buildings, people lived in smaller bedrooms back then, right? And when you're playing a rental game, you gotta have, you know, medium size. You don't gotta have huge bedrooms, but you gotta have competitive sized bedrooms, right? And framing could cost because now we're talking about the price of lumber at the time, which goes up and down, right? And you know, installing, everybody's not a good framer. I've realized that, stuff like that. So typically, if I can come into a property and see that, all right, I might have to gut it out, but I don't have to reframe it. Like the size of the rooms is there. The layout is basically what I'm talking about. If the layout looks good, then that's another plus where, all right, no foundation issues. The layout looks good. Now it's like, okay, now we're talking roofing, sheetrock, plumbing, and typically the plumbing is already done if it's framed out correctly, right? So you might have to do some rough plumbing, stuff like that. But I already, like when I'm doing my estimates before I even call my contractors, I'm already throwing, okay, I probably have to throw 8,000-9,000 at plumbing. I might have to spend 10. Like you're looking at the electrical box, right? To see how old it is. If you got to replace that, the circuit breakers downstairs, like these are all the mechanicals. I'm pretty much, the frame is not mechanical, but everything else I'm talking about is pretty much mechanical. And those are the things that's going to cost you. Those are things you can put in your head, like, all right, to rewire a 2-family, 1,000 square foot per unit property, back when I was even doing them, you might spend 15,000, 14,000, something like that. Then let's say you got to do an all new roof, right? Roof might cost you 12,000, 13,000, depending on how big it is. Lower end, sometimes you get it done 8, 9, but typically you're gonna spend around 10 grand, right? So these are all things that's going off in my head as I'm going through there. And now, the kitchen and the bathroom is the main thing, right? So now, if you're doing a 2-unit, that's 2 kitchens, that's 2 bathrooms, stuff like that. And we ain't even talk about siding yet, right? Hopefully the siding doesn't have asbestos and things like that. A new siding on a 2,000 square foot home, that might cost you 15,000, right? So and I'm giving rough numbers, it could be a little higher or lower, but those are things like that. Those are things that go through my head when I'm going through there to see if I want to deal with it. Now, let's say I have to do all of those things minus the foundation that I just named. Now it depends on purchase price, right? If this property is only worth 200 grand and you want 100, and I got to go do everything I just named, I don't want it, right? Because I might have to spend $70,000 doing that, right? $80,000 doing that, more on the higher end. And it depends. In a rental, you don't really want to do modern, you could do modern, but you don't want to do expensive finishes, right? Because it's a rental property, right? So they don't respect it like a single family homeowner will. Single family homeowner will pay for the better finishes, right? And also the single family game is totally different. You're literally on a multifamily, I might not even do the siding if I can get away with it after doing everything else inside, and I'll do the siding later once I actually go and get my refi, right? Because sometimes you be out all that money, you gotta get some money back. You gotta start getting some rent, collecting stuff like that. So typically, that's how I run through a 2-family, potential deal. And on the single family side, the numbers just have to make sense. The numbers have to make sense on both deals, right? But on a single family, now you might have to spend a little bit more on your rehab, but it's more or less because it's only 1 unit you're doing now, right? But you're doing 1 unit with better finishes, especially depending on the neighborhood. And typically, you don't want to flip in a C+ neighborhood. Up here, you can, because the housing inventory is so low. So people buying anywhere that's not war zones, pretty much. But your profit margin ain't gonna be the same versus an A-class neighborhood where people are fighting to be able to go buy, and those are the best school districts and things like that. So typically over there, you're gonna spend a little bit more on the property, but your return is gonna be higher.
Makes sense.
So it really comes down to numbers. And to give you one of my formulas, it's a pretty common formulas out there. Typically, when you're flipping a property or doing a BRRRR method, right, you want to make 30% on your money. That is the goal. Most lenders will not lend if your all-in cost meaning purchase price of the home and construction, they want that number typically to be 70% of the ARV, which is the after repair value, right? Does that make sense? Right? So now, pretty much, if your all-in cost is 70% of the ARV, your 30% is locked in because it's going to go for what it's worth. You know what I mean? So that's typically my formulas I like to follow basically. And sometimes in this market right now, I might even get a little tighter. It might even be 65%, it might even be 60, right? That's why I stay at the auctions, because now I'm buying properties that are undervalued anyway, right? Because somebody done lost it, somebody done lost it to taxes, mortgages, things like that. So that's why I play in that space. But to play in that space, you got to just have your tool belt a little stronger.
That was the question I was headed to, which was, for a new investor, they're gonna say, well, maybe I could find Zillow or the off market or the wholesalers, as you said, but for I was gonna ask, what are some other avenues to find those deals, right? And you, as you said, you mentioned the auction. Are there other ones like tax liens or anything like that? Like, what other options, other opportunities are there? Not necessarily related to I need to go buy and fix this house. Are there other opportunities available?
Right. So realistically, wholesalers is the first thing, right? Because they're getting the property direct from the owner. So they're going to have the best number most of the time, right? But in certain towns, the MLS is lit everywhere, right? And the MLS is the multiple listing service, right? And pretty much you're going to have the most competition on the MLS though, because everybody's looking at it, right? All the real estate agents, everybody's looking at it. So you can find a good deal there, but you got to move fast. It's in the way the world has been the past 2-3 years. When you go, you probably want to be putting an offer in that night or the next day, right? Because you're going to have a lot of competition there. And typically those properties go over asking too, depending, and this is going to be regionally based, right? So if anybody listening, certain regions might not be going on like that. But up here, that's how it's kind of moving, right? Then it's all about your networking, right? You mentioned off market. A lot of the methods that these wholesalers use to get their properties, one big one is tax delinquent list, right? So you can go to your county and go and print out the county tax delinquent list. And these are people that are going to be delinquent on the taxes currently. Right now, some counties make it easier. Some counties have it online. Some counties make it hard for you to get it. But that's a good list to go start off, right? Because now you're seeing people that owe 30, 40, 50, 70, whatever amount of money that they owe on their homes. So now your job is to find that owner and reach out to them and try to put an offer in on their property and find out. They call those motivated sellers, right? So you want to try to find motivated sellers, people that have a reason. Like you just mentioned, tax liens. New York is a tax deed state, so we don't do the liens up here. But in a tax lien state, it's pretty much you're investing into the lien, and the property owner has time to either pay that lien up, and if he does pay that lien, he has to pay you your money with interest, right? So that lane is in different states. Every state is different when it comes to that. But pretty much tax delinquent list, people like you want to try to build relationships with divorce attorneys, foreclosure attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, because these people are typically dealing with people that are about to lose their property or have to sell their property and have to sell it fast. And that's how you want it, right? Because it's not that you're necessarily preying, P-R-E-Y, on people's downfall, but you're actually giving people solutions. Because if you come and sell a property for somebody that was about to lose it, now you just save their credit from getting a foreclosure on it and things like that, messing up with that bank, all of the above, right? And as a wholesaler, if you can come in and throw an assignment fee on there, right? That's how you see these wholesalers blow up, because you can make a lot of money because you can find properties that some people just want to get rid of them. So you can get them very discounted, right? But a wholesaler has to work harder than me because they're trying to find something even cheaper than I am, right? I'm actually willing to do the construction and things of that nature. Wholesalers aren't trying to do that, right? But the goal of the game is not to always wholesale. The goal is to have long-term wealth. And if you wholesale everything, then you're not holding on to any money, right? And it's kind of like a wheel you're just going on, right? But wholesaling can help you build capital. And wholesaling doesn't cost a penny. So that's one of the bottom floor ways to be able to raise money in real estate and get involved. And that's pretty much it. Those are like the first 3-4 things I think of when it's trying to find a deal. And lastly, with the auctions are either going to be tax delinquent auctions for the county that they have. So you can go down to your county and see what properties are being foreclosed on. And I love bank owned. Real estate owned. Those are bank REOs. It's real estate owned by banks. And banks are usually trying to get rid of them. But the banks are a little bit more competitive. So you got to really understand your numbers, and your poker face got to be strong in these auctions, because the bank is trying to get the most they can for it, right? Because they're going to be the ones that take the loss ultimately when you buy the property from them. So I love that, because right now in the time, from that pandemic and, the forbearances that people had, a lot of that stuff is lifted now. So there's a lot of homes that's been coming on, to these auctions. So typically those are the things I would say, the avenues you want to look into when you're looking to find something where you can build some equity.
For sure. You talked about the wholesaling being like a low barrier entry, so say you're someone new that, isn't well versed in evaluating properties and the value of them, or you don't have a list of contractors that you can tap in with to do these, bird method strategies or to do the flips. They got them all the time. And like you said, that's how you started. You just went to a workshop one weekend. I know I did one about 10 years ago where I just sat in there like all day for a whole weekend and just learned wholesaling. I remember asking the people, I was like, yo, this seems easy. I was like, why doesn't everybody know about this? Why don't most people do this? Or even the people in the room that were getting the education, like, how come they can't just, it was like, yo, because education is just one part of it. You know what I'm saying? You got to put the sweat equity and the infrastructure around doing it. So, but yeah, just kind of, I mean, you broke down wholesaling in a nutshell, but just kind of for someone new, just trying to get in, maybe their credit isn't where they need to be, kind of break down a good way where they can come in, use wholesaling to get some capital to do other things with, so they can get on Just Money level.
So pretty much, the first thing you want to do is driving for dollars, right? That is probably the most effective way to find properties, because everybody doesn't know about that person that just lost a family member, let's say, across the street, right? But you do, right? So that property might not have hit the foreclosure list yet. The county, they might not owe taxes on it, right? But they need to get rid of it. Right? Or, you know, you drive around in your neighborhoods. We ride by these houses all the time. We're just not paying attention. We're not looking for them. You know, you see the high grass, you see a bunch of mail piled up. Those can be opportunities, right? You got to know how to spot an opportunity. You also got to know, you have to teach yourself to be able to look at trash and see treasure, right? That was a big thing that I had to go through, especially for the rental properties, because just because you wouldn't live there doesn't mean they would, right? And money doesn't have any feelings, right? So pretty much when it comes to wholesaling for somebody, typically the driving for dollars is better than the tax delinquent list to me, because everybody has access to the tax delinquent list, right? So the people that understand the game, but that also is a game in its own, because that list might have 4,000 people on it, right? So now you got to take the time and take that Saturday and sit down and go through and see which most of those properties make the most sense, and then do the comps on them, finding out how much they're worth, then try to reach out to the owner, right? So it's definitely a lot of groundwork, to be honest with you. That's why I have never done it full time. Like, I've wholesaled properties that I might not have wanted to flip, or I might have won a contract or something like that, and I had my money tied up in other things, so I just sold it for a profit. But that's why I love real estate, because once you get it under contract, you can't lose. Even, you know what I'm saying? It's damn near impossible. And I'm not even trying, I'm saying that purposely, because I see this online a lot, where, how did you never take a loss? Not because I'm buying right. If you're buying right, it's very hard for you to lose, right? You know, I'm not saying I might not have paid a little bit more for construction, things like that, but when you're buying right, you're making your money at the table. So for a wholesaler, somebody new getting involved, you want to find them properties in your neighborhood. You want to become a data person, right? You want to understand data. Like, everything that I'm telling you guys and we've been speaking about tonight is data driven. None of this is my opinion. Data backs these things up, right? So you want to understand what properties are worth in certain zip codes near you. You want to understand what are the hottest zip codes near you, right? And how do you see that? You go on Zillow and look at recently sold homes, right? And now you start seeing, this house was sold on the 5th. This one was sold last month, the month before that, the month before. Okay, so people are wanting to get over there. Then you see what type of properties are being sold. Are they retail, new construction? So if people doing that, that means people are rushing to get to those neighborhoods, right? So for somebody that doesn't have any money, that might have bad credit, wholesaling is going to be the best way to get involved, because typically, let's say you find somebody on this tax delinquent list. I'm going to break down an example. So let's say you find somebody, they owe $50,000 on the property, right? You see in taxes, they got $50,000 in taxes owed, right? But you know, once you do your numbers, that the ARV of the property is $200,000. So now you're like, okay, this house is worth 200. They owe 50 on it. So, all right, now your goal is to try to find this owner. They have, the process is called skip tracing, right? People call skip tracing is pretty much you just finding any and everything you can about that homeowner, right? And if you're able to contact them, now you contact them, say, hey, you know, you're looking, you're interested in their property, think about buying it. Are you interested in selling? Things like that. You got to get your script together. That's why I'm not doing it yet, right? But now you come in and say, okay, if you're able to get that person to give you an appointment to look at the property, that's the first way. Now that's your first step. Now you got there. Okay, now all that was free. That didn't cost anything, right? So now you get to the property and evaluate. Typically, if you can have a contractor with you or somebody that looks like one or a contractor that's like not dressed up as one, because sometimes that's a little, people get a little afraid of that when they see, because they typically investors get a bad name. I don't know why. When we're revitalizing the community and we're helping you out, but neither here or there, you gotta know how to play the game. So now when we get there and you assess on how bad the renovations are that may be needed, right? These are all things you want to assess while you're there. So now you're like, okay, now you're ready to put an offer in, right? But if you know in your head, okay, I know this is going to take about $30,000 to fix up, right? I know they owe 50 on it, right? So that's 80, right? But it's worth 200. So now, an wholesaler can say, all right, hey, look, I know this property needs about 30. I know you owe 50 on it, right? Now you've got that communication, that rapport built. You know he owes 50,000 on it. So now it's like, typically, I know you're going to need some money maybe to move, something like that, right? So typically, you might offer that person $95,000, right? And if you get that person to say yes, right, now he signs a contract, right? And typically in that contract, get with your attorney, but you would have the clauses in there. A real wholesaler will have the clauses in there to just in case you can't sell it, you can't be sued or anything like that, right? So that's a major part to wholesaling is your assignment contract. And an assignment contract is basically Just Money's buying the property from Casey, and I'm assigning my rights to buy Casey's property to Nate. That's what that means, right? So then now, if I just got Casey to give me the property for $95,000, I got him under contract, right? So now I got 30, 45 days to come up with this $95,000. So I pick up the phone and call people like myself, right? My investor friends, right? And up in upstate New York is a cheat code because you can put them on the MLS. That's one thing you can't do in every state. So I can get it right under contract from him, put it right on the MLS. Right now, you have to pay realtor fees, but my wife is a realtor, so I'm saving money there, right? But now, it hits the MLS. Now the whole world sees it. So now you're having showings and things like that, and you want to do it respectably. If somebody's living there, you don't want to have 100 people coming through the property in 2 days. But now you're meeting buyers that you didn't even know. In other states, you can't put it on the MLS. They don't do assignment contracts, right? So then that means you have to have a buyer's list. You need a bunch of people like Just Money that are looking for flip opportunities, single family opportunities, multifamily opportunities, know what type of criteria I'm looking for. And I love how we're speaking about this right now because I just broke down all of the criteria that I'm looking for. So once you know everything I'm looking for, now I'm calling Nate, using Nate as me. Hey, Nate, I got this property. Look, it's worth 200,000. It's probably going to need about 30. Just give me 120. All right. Now Nate's going to come in, do his due diligence. See, okay, well, all right. Just wants 120 for this. It needs about $30,000. Okay, so I'm gonna be all in 150, right? But I can sell it for 200. So Nate comes in, he makes $50,000, right? And if we really do the math, what's 30% on 200? 60, right? So you almost right there. Now, everybody doesn't have to make 30, depending on where your money is, but that's just like a general number. But who's complaining making 50 grand, right?
Right.
And I just made 25 grand. I didn't put up any money. The only money I put up, I might give Casey $100 just to make the contract valid. Here's a deposit that I'm going to buy your home. That's out of my pocket, right? Very minimal. But I just made $25,000 by selling it to Nate, right? And all I did was sell a piece of paper.
You're the middleman, just brokering the deal between, like you said, a distressed or a motivated seller and someone who wants to take on that project from them to do them a favor. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, as opposed to that foreclosure being on there, or I always relate it to Monopoly. You know what I'm saying? We all play Monopoly. You got those distressed sellers that it's the end of the game, and they shaking in their boots when they come around that last corner to them green and them blue properties. You land on it, and you got the rabbit ears in your pockets. You don't know what to do. That's when someone they start auctioning it off, or like, hey, I'll hook you up with do. So pretty much that's what you're doing. You just brokering the deal between someone who ain't got it to someone that'll take that off their hands and do something with it. So
absolutely. Anybody can do it, but it does take hard work. And nowadays,
and people skills,
people skills, yes,
yeah,
major
like
part.
you said, be personable, go in there, not as a shark or as a snake. You know what I'm saying? Build that rapport with that seller and say, hey, I understand whoop de whoop is going on. Have you ever considered doing this? And just what we do as entrepreneurs anyway, we problem solvers. You're solving a problem for that individual who's in a bind right now.
That's real. That's real. So, Jess, you talked about investing in your area in upstate New York. What kind of pointers would you have for somebody who may be looking to invest in somewhere they don't live? Do you invested in somewhere you don't live? And do you have any pointers for that? Somebody trying that or thinking of that?
Great question. So as of currently me, I have never invested out of state, not yet, right? And it's because I was a little scared, now that I'm more out on social media and built some great relationships in different areas, like at Detroit, like in Atlanta, things like that. I am flirting with that right now. I'm actually dealing with a few clients from Just Money Enterprises, and we're pulling together some money, and we're probably going to go out to Detroit. No problem, we are going. We're just trying to get all the logistics straight. But before you do that, it's all about boots on the ground, right? And boots on the ground is priceless, man, because no matter what, when you're dealing with a property manager, you need somebody to be managing him, right? Because some people just look at you as money. In this real estate game, sometimes they look at the investor as money. They don't look at all the risks that we're taking, right? They don't look at all the things that could go wrong that we still have to deal with because we took the risk, right? So when it comes to out-of-state investing, first thing is foremost, like we spoke earlier, the numbers have to make sense first. And, right now in the climate in the real estate world, there's been a few people getting, I don't want to say the word scammed. I would just more say finessed, because a lot of people just been kind of handing money over to people, and you're really investing into a brand. You're not really investing into deals, right? Because we shouldn't be able to hand somebody money and they don't even have an address for you. They don't have comps for you, sellers reports. You don't know what the taxes are on the building. You don't know any of these things. And I hate to see our people lose, So one thing is due diligence, right? So when you understand the due diligence that we just talked about during this podcast and understand how to evaluate these things, then when you invest out of state, the last part you need is the realtor. You already did all your work before you even called them, right? So now you need a handyman if you're going to be going into renovating things, right? But even if you're doing a buy and hold that's rented already, you still need a handyman, somebody that can come over and do a few jobs from time to time. So the main thing is about building up rapport with somebody there. Right now, it also depends on how far you're talking. Now, if we're talking an hour out, something like that, then I haven't done it yet, but I have been thinking about it. The furthest I have property is like 40 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Because it's somewhere I can get like that. Excuse me, just in case something's happening. But typically, once you further in an hour and stuff like that, you're gonna have to put your trust on other people, right? So that means you're gonna have a property manager, right? So you can expect to pay a property manager. Majority of them get paid 10% of the rent, of the rental income, right? So rental income is $2,500 a month. You owe him $250, but for that $250, he manages your property. He deals with the tenants. He or she collects rent. Gets it rented out, hires the contractors, all of those things. Now, it's levels to it. Some people give their property manager the business credit cards. That's what I like to teach it. We're going to get into that next on the credit side of things. But I like to teach people to have a business credit card per property that you have. So just in case something does go wrong, you do have 10, 15K sitting on a card that your property manager can go utilize to go get your repairs done. Stuff like that. And some property managers have great relationships where they'll even go and fix it and just invoice you later, but it's levels to it. You know what I mean? So you got to have boots on the ground and you got to have a property manager. Those two are the main things, and a handyman, right? And a good realtor. So it's all about your team. You got to have a strong team. And that's why just knowing some of the headaches that come with this game, I haven't been comfortable enough to do it yet, but I am getting there through some of the relationships that I have now, stuff like that. I'm even thinking about coming down in Baltimore and stuff like that. So,
Jeez, there you go. Hot market, another hot market.
Yeah, I know that. I know a bunch of people. I got folks out in Detroit who do the land bank, and they, you know what I'm saying, they always, that was like, hey man, you gotta come out there. My cousin, as a matter of fact, my cousin, shout out to Jeremy, just got a job with the Pistons. So
I seen Jeremy doing this thing out there. I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah, so I know he don't work out there, but when he go out there, that's my boots on the ground out Detroit. I got a few of them out there, but yeah, Detroit is a popping market, dog. It's a beautiful city,
and it's still lit. It's been lit for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's still lit, dog. And they redid downtown, dog. Detroit is a beautiful city, bro. Just been giving all types of information, man, quality information to the folks, man. And again, you know, if you want to hear more, you know, we're gonna get his tag, Just Money Enterprises. You know, look the young bull up, man, and obviously he got good knowledge, good you know, a good wherewithal in order to help you learn. So I just want to give you a brief plug in the middle of that joint, you know what I'm saying? Because I do appreciate the knowledge and the value that you're giving to people. But you did bring up credit in regards to using credit to, you know, well, building your business credit, right? And the importance of building your business credit. But being able to use business credit or credit and stuff in order to be active in the real estate market.
First things first, with me, I teach, you want to have a good personal credit profile because that determines how much money you can get. And in the real estate game, you know, we playing with houses. So typically we talking about 50 grand, 100 grand, 150, 200,000, bigger amounts, like bigger numbers that you got to get used to managing, right? There's an emotional part to that too. That's what I'm starting to learn being a new teacher. A lot of people don't have the emotions to spend 50,000 and don't see it for 3-4 months, right? Stuff like that. So that's another part to it. But pretty much when it comes to credit, typically your credit score, you want your credit score to be at least a 650, I would say, to get business credit from some of these smaller banks. And there's two kinds of business credit that people talk about, right? Me, I talk about business credit that you have to personally guarantee, right? And a personal guarantee is just pretty much your personal credit is guaranteeing that this new business or old business is going to pay its debts. And if that business fails, then they can come after you personally for the debt, right? So the good thing about that is you can start business a lot faster. You can start an LLC today and be in the bank pulling out money next week for a new business if your personal credit is in order. Right. So there's a lot of different things they look for. It's not really just having a high score. It's a certain type of accounts, how long you had them, how many inquiries you got recently. It's a lot of different things that they look for that determine. Now, granted, every bank is different. Right. So some banks are going to be harder. Some banks are going to be lighter. Right. Like they like to call them, like, you give them tiers. Right. So your tier 1 banks is going to be your Chase, Bank of America's, you know, Wells Fargo, stuff like that. They're going to be a lot stricter on what they look for to qualify you for business credit, right? But smaller banks, your credit unions, those are the good niches, right? Because you're going to have a cheaper interest rate over there off the top, right? And they might be a little bit more lenient if you got some bad things on your name, right? So when it comes to me in the credit, I like to go for business credit that is 0% APR, right? When you first get it. That's the key. Because now you just went and got $100,000 in business credit, business funding, however you got it, lines of credit, whatever. And if it's at 0% for a year or 18 months or 24 months, depending on how good your credit is, that 24 months is usually people that's more on the top tier with their credit profile. But let's say 18 months, 12 months is very typical. So now you just got $100,000 at 0% for a year, right? So I don't know about you guys, but when you know what to do with that money, now you just got loaned 100 grand and your payment typically is 1% of the balance, right? So now that payment on 100 grand is $1,000 a month. Now you definitely have to have money management, right? When it comes to using the money, using the credit to get involved with real estate, because you still have payments. You got hard money payments. You got payments on the credit cards that you use to fund this deal. So you want to make sure you get the 0% money first, because that's the money you want to use on actually purchasing, right? But then when it comes to American Express and the charge cards that they have and their platinum and their plum and all these different things, right? Now, those cards, you might have to pay them back every 30 days, right? Like those have no limit though, right? So now they base the limit. It really does have a preset limit, but they advertise them as they have no limit. But they base it on your spending habits currently on your credit profile. So let's say they gave you a limit of 50,000. Well, if you got 50,000 on one of those cards, if you got to spend 30, 40 of it, when you're doing hard money, you get reimbursed your money, right? So hard money, typically a hard money loan, they will pay for 80% of the purchase price and they will do 100% of the construction cost, right? They'll cover all of the construction, right? But they do it in phases because they want to make sure you know what you're doing. You will have to put up the first phase. So if the repairs are 100 grand, you break it down into 4 phases, you got to have that 25. But the reason why you can use those Amex cards that you have to pay back every 30 days is because as soon as your phase is done, within 48 hours, you can get an inspection from the lender and they will come in there and make sure that you did the work and they will reimburse you your money. So you will do that until the end of the renovation process. And so by the time you get to your last phase, you don't got reimbursed that money. So technically, when you get to the closing table or the refi table, you are only out of pocket 20%, right? So when it comes to the credit, my job is to get you to 0% money first so you can actually buy these properties. And then now the doors are wide open now because now you have lines of credit. There are businesses and banks out there that will give your company a line of credit. And if the company's new, there'll be limits to the amounts of money that they'll give you. But there are some banks out there that will give you money with no documentation. And when I say no documentation, I'm meaning no tax returns at all. You know what I mean? So now you can go get up to 50 grand. Some of these banks, some banks doing 100. So now that money is not going to be 0% though, right? That money is going to be closer to prime rate, right? And prime rate right now, I want to say is, I think it's like 6.5, something like that, right?
I was about to say 7, yeah.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, it's a little higher than that. So typically those rates are going to be a little higher, but it's still going to be cheaper than a credit card, right? It's still going to be cheaper than 23% like some of these credit cards are doing for you. So 0% money first, lines of credit second. And that's what I teach our people, right? And my clients. And you also have another side of business credit when it comes to building up your Dun & Bradstreet and your paydex score, right? So now that is basically what you want to do because the goal is to ultimately separate yourself from the business, right? That's how you see 50 Cent, Donald Trump, all of these people, right? Where they could file bankruptcy personally, but the businesses is good, right? Or they file bankruptcy for the business, but personally they're still good, right? So in order to get real business financing, you have to build up that paydex score. You have to build without using your social, pretty much is what I'm saying. To be able to go and open a business and go get funding without using your social security number, there are some places out there, you know, Uline and Sam's Club and stuff like that, where you can get business credit without your social, but it's going to be limits to everything that you get. Once you come in and guarantee it, the door is open. But let's say you don't want to use your personal credit at all. You can build up your business credit and your Dun & Bradstreet and these things over a year to 2 years. And now you're able to go and chase and get business credit cards, no social security number. But your revenue has to be up. Like these are things they don't talk about when you hear these ads online. Mm-hmm. Revenue might have to be minimum 50,000 a month or $1 million plus for the year. So a lot of people don't even meet those requirements, but a lot of people sell you on, they want to sell you a course or they want whatever it is, they sell you on you being able to get business credit without using your social security number. It is possible, but it's very difficult if you're not making money.
And one overarching theme we keep kind of not tap dancing around, but like education, bro. Like education is so key. Like you can't get scammed if you've done your due diligence, and even Google's your friend. There's a lot of free information out there on Google. Do your due diligence and find out what questions to ask, what this person should be teaching you before you just giving them money or subscribing to their mailing list or their course for somebody that really don't know what they're doing, and they're just scamming you. So yeah, being educated, being curious, being a student of whatever it is, you know, rest in peace, Kobe Bean Bryant. But like he was a master tactician and studied the game. You know what I'm saying? So you can't get scammed if you're always curious like that. So like that's why we had a podcast. That's why you got Just Money Enterprises. Like do your due diligence, people. To get back to the credit real quick, you talked about the credit score versus the credit profile. A lot of people don't know the difference. A lot of people just focus on the score not being the most important part. So the credit mix and the utilization and all that, kind of tap into that as we close and talk about the importance of that.
Absolutely. So out of those things you just mentioned, the utilization is the most important. Right. And that's how much credit that you're using versus how much credit you have available, right? So typically on the personal credit side, your score will go down once you get over 30%, right? But if you ask Justin, because we on the E.I.G, if you ask me, as long as you can afford the payments, if that means you have to be a good money manager now. So I need people to hear this correctly, right? If you're a good money manager, credit has no memory. And what do I mean by that? If you got your credit cards maxed out, and that's not saying I want you to max them out, so I want people to hear this correct. But if you need that money for an investment or you need that money for something and you got more than 70% of your credit sitting available, you're not going to touch it because you're worried about your score coming down, I'm here to tell you that your score means nothing, right? It's all about your credit profile. Your score means nothing. So as long as you can afford to never miss that minimum payment, I'm not going to tell you not to go over 30%, right? I'm going to tell you to make sure you're under 30% when it's time to go for new funding, right? Because that's when, let's say you was maxed out for the last 6 months. Now they are trying to implement something that's going to change this, right? Which is called the FICO 10, which is a new FICO scoring model that they have developed. And it's already been passed. So it's going to be implemented. Just every bank hasn't picked it up yet. So what I'm saying right now, they are trying to fight. So pretty much, let's say you max your credit cards out for the past 6 months. You made the payments after you sold the house, whatever it is that you was using the money on. Your credit score is going to go from being low right back to being high, right? So now, as long as you don't ever miss a payment, late payments will destroy you. Just know that. Collections you can get off, late payments you can get off, but it's a lot harder to get the late payments off because you still have the account, right? So when it comes to credit profile, your profile is a mix of everything. It's your credit mix. So that means the type of accounts you have. That could be installment loans, mortgages, cars, credit cards, right? Credit cards is revolving credit, right? That's money that constantly revolves. You pay off and it constantly revolves. But an installment loan is like a car loan, like a mortgage, something that you pay over time, right? And when you have a mix of these things, and a mortgage is its own real estate loan in its own, so that has a place on your personal credit as well. Like me, I don't even have a personal mortgage, right? So I don't even have a real estate loan on my personal name. All of my real estate loans are under LLCs, right? So that's one thing I need to add to my name. And I'm going to do that. I just haven't been in a rush really to FHA a property in this climate right now, right? Mm-hmm. So pretty much that's your credit mix. Your utilization is how much of your credit that you're using, right? And then you have number of accounts, right? If you have anything less than 5 accounts on your credit, it's considered a thin file, right? A thin file, now the creditors just don't trust you as much, right? You can still get credit, but when you have 2-3 credit cards, it doesn't look as good, right? It's like they have a minimum amount, so they're still looking at you like a rookie, right? But once you got 5 accounts, 8 accounts, 10, 12, 15, once you start getting like that, now credit is all about positives versus negatives, right? So somebody with 16 accounts, all positive, if he gets a collection, it's not going to destroy him. It'll take him down some, but it's not going to destroy him like somebody that only has 5 accounts and they get a collection. Or you open up, or you pay off a car loan, let's say, and you got 15 accounts. When you close an account, your credit score comes down a little bit, right? Because they respect them being open longer, which is crazy. That's why I said they don't teach you these things, right? Most people want to pay their cars off. You want to get out of debt.
It only sounds crazy because of the way we were introduced to credit early on. You know what I'm saying? Like most of us are like, no, our parents are like, don't use credit. Credit's bad. You know, my first credit card was like $300 from my first credit union. I made sure I didn't use it unless I needed it. Right.
Right.
But it's like if utilized correctly, using other people's money is how this country flourishes on a day-to-day, year-to-year basis. Like just go through history. So yeah, using that credit it can be a powerful tool, just like money.
Right.
It's a tools that you can
easier
use.
to raise, to be honest. I tell
Yep.
people right now, how many people can you call right now and get 100,000 cash? But I'm pretty sure I've known you brothers for a few years now. I haven't even looked at your credit, but I know if I look at it, I can guarantee I could maybe get you 50.
Facts.
You know, and it's like it's money that we're all sitting on, but we haven't been taught how to extract it. Right. And when the second part is you got people that are being positioned, this is the part that really touches my heart. Because when it comes to us, you know, black and brown people, I love everyone, right? But we are losing in a lot of these things that we mentioned tonight, right? So we will have the credit, right? How many aunties we know that got the Benz, kids in college? That means you got student loans on your name, nice mortgage, right? All of these things. You even got your student loans that you was paying when you was 18. So all of those people, they got the credit profiles where they can go get a couple 100,000 tomorrow, right? But we've been taught that credit was so bad. We're looking at it, processing as, why do I need 300,000 in debt? No, it's good debt versus bad debt. Good debt is a mortgage, right? Your credit, like people have the credit profile, but they're scared to take a risk, you know? And that's the part, and I say that touches my heart because I really wish I could really show, I can't scream it off the mountaintops loud enough. That's why I have Just Money Enterprises now. And, you know, I've been dealing with some personal issues the past year and I'm past that now. So we're really working on the content and really going to start revving this thing up for the second half of 2023, because I do have a message I want to give people and I could really change a lot of lives, you know, but you got to put the work in too. You can come to me all day. I can give you every strategy, everything that you need, every tool to be able to excel. But if you're scared to jump in the water, I can't help you with that. And I understand. I will never judge. I understand why. But we gotta break that stigma, because if Walmart, right, if they have a $200 million credit line, like I read that, probably, and that's probably way more than that now, but this was like 3 years ago. I was reading that, and they're Walmart. So why do we feel we don't need credit? Why do we feel that credit is bad? I understand why, but we've been tricked, to be honest.
Bamboozled.
You know, so that's what I would say. Credit profile, though, I want you to focus more on. Your credit score is going to be good regardless. If you have a good credit profile, your score is it's gonna, you know, yin and yang. You know what I mean? But if we only focus on score, you could have 2-3 credit cards and have an 800 credit score if you had those cards for some time, but you're not about to walk in that dealership and leave with no Lamborghini or no Mercedes or no, you know what I'm saying? Anything that's really worth something to you, or, you know, you can get a mortgage, but typically they want to see a little bit more, you know? So, and the mortgage is a little bit easier to get. It's crazy, fellas. You can get a house faster than you can get some business credit. That's America for you. You can go get 200,000 in student loans all day. 200,000 in unsecured business credit, tough.
All right.
That's how they built this country, you know. So it's like, and the real estate's like that because they know they can take it from you. The car, they know they can take it from you. So if Nate messes up, we can sell it, get rid of it. We might take a small loss, but we'll get it back from him. You know. So there you have it.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, that's a great episode, man.
Gems on gems.
Gems on gems, man. Brother Just, let the good people of the world, let them know where they can find you and Just Money Enterprises and all the good things that you have going on for the people.
Absolutely. First off, I have my website is www.justmoneyenterprises.com, and you can come there and actually book a free consultation. and we jump on Zoom, and we jump on Zoom for 30 minutes, pretty much go through your credit right then and there, and see if you'd be a good fit for Just Money Enterprises. And if you're not, I'm probably still going to give you a plan on what you need to do to become ready to come get some of this business credit. But I don't necessarily do credit repair, and I run into that a lot. So I do have an arm of Just Money Enterprises that I'm working on now, where I can start referring people for the credit repair, because a lot of us need it, right? So pretty much you can go to my website, justmoneyenterprises.com. You can also find me on Instagram. My business page is just at Just Money Enterprises, and my personal page is Just Money 20, JUS Money 20, no T. And I'm moving a lot more over to the business page content wise, so like I'm still new with getting out of my shell, posting and, showing my everyday moves and stuff like that. I come from a town where we wasn't doing that, but that's the world we live in today. And I'm here to show people I can definitely be a viable tool to them. So Just Money 20 on Instagram, Just Money Enterprises on Instagram, justmoneyenterprises.com. And lastly, you can reach my business phone number at 518-889-2133. Once again, that's 518-889-2133. Hopefully the fellas put that on the bottom while we chat. And then that's pretty much it, man. We here. Come tap in.
Yeah, we're gonna put all the information in the comments and in the section down there so everybody can tap in with y'all. And again, just to give you your flowers, we fumbled that on the intro, but you brought up Clubhouse. When this man said he had thousands of people, him and Benz, our chief financial officer, and E.I.G, these fellas really built something extraordinary on Clubhouse. They had hundreds of thousands of subscribers on there, but on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 11, they were talking stock market, they were talking real estate, credit, entrepreneurship, all kind of dope stuff. And it was a beautiful thing to see, man. They really, really built something dope. And like you said, you come from an era where, we really weren't doing that before, but to see people be transparent, give free game, answer questions, helping single mothers out, people who just got furloughed, lost their job during the pandemic. Like, it was a dope congregation of just amazingness that y'all put together, man. So we got to salute y'all for that. Was not Bloomberg pulled up, even did an article on y'all. Like, y'all really made waves. Made waves, dog. Like, man, we gotta. So like this guy is still learning, but he's well versed and knows what he's talking about. So he's a reputable source to get some of this information. So definitely tap in with this man.
One last little plug I want to throw in there. For the people that might have been hearing all of these things, let's say you come ready. Let's say you got business credit already. You already straight. I can help you get involved in the upstate New York real estate market, right? Because the numbers are pretty competitive compared to all these other places. Like Detroit, you're going to go get stuff a little cheaper, maybe Baltimore, certain areas. But when it comes to cash flow and cap rates and things like that, we are blessed to be in New York. It's kind of one of the higher states. So we make good rent money up here. And that's why I haven't left yet. To be totally honest. So I do syndicate deals for people too. We didn't really mention that. I want to put that out there. If you ever thinking about, you want to just invest or you want to get involved in the real estate market up here, you already kind of got your ducks in order, you could reach out as well. And we have syndication services where we can work out something and we help you get the deal, fix the deal, flip the deal, whatever, manage the deal long term. I'm your boots on the ground. I am born and raised up here. So I know it like the back of my hand.
Hey man, this was the second recording, but there's gonna be a third, man. You're gonna be on the pod again, sharing some game, because we just scratching the surface with giving this information. We definitely gonna have you on again, you family. We appreciate you. Case, what you got for the folks, man, as we wrap up?
My man just talked about him having some family issues prior, going through some things in life. Man, one of the homies lost a loved one the other day, man. Some people are just going through it, man. So I want to tell everybody, man, stay prayed up. You know what I'm saying? Keep your faith first, man, because times is hard, dog. The devil real. Walk in faith, man, and stay strong for the people, man. And E.I.G, that's what we try and do, and we're just trying to do what all our guests on all our podcasts is trying to do is build this community wherein faith comes first, but it's also family, followed by that family and that community, man. So, you know, positive vibes to everybody who's going through something, positive vibes to everybody who needs something, you know, and keep y'all head up, man. Keep moving forward, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. You know it's been a rough day for E.I.G. So yeah, we appreciate you. Again, tap in with us, Extraordinary Exchange Podcast. This is episode 10. We still got you in the first 10, baby. You were supposed to be 2. We still got you in the first 10. So yeah. Episode 10, Extraordinary Exchange Podcast. We appreciate y'all. It's powered by the Extraordinary Investment Group, 12 Black men that are doing dope stuff in the community to help your entrepreneurial journey. And yeah, man, that's it. Until next time. We'll holler.
Until next time.
Peace.